My dear friends, it's now Sunday morning, 2 days after what has now been confirmed as the worst peacetime disaster in Israel's history, Lag BaOmer at Meron. 45 people have lost their lives, 150 people were injured, and some are still in a critical condition. I spoke about this in shul yesterday, and I've been asked to share my words with a wider audience, and I'll try and do that now, incorporating a couple of things that I picked up last night. First of all, to say that my initial feeling, like so many of you, was one of anger almost. But during Friday, I was keen to see what people had written, people had said, and Sivan Rahav Meir, the well-known Israeli journalist, Rabbi Reuven Tarragon, head of the Diaspora Students Program in Yeshivat HaKotel, Rav Ari Shisler, who is a rabbi in Johannesburg, and my son, Rav Beni, who's a rabbi in Yeshivat HaKotel. Without quoting any of them directly, I want to share some of the thoughts that they conveyed. But first, to say as follows. I was reminded that a couple of weeks ago we read on Parashat Shmini the tragic incident where at the dedication of the tabernacle, Aaron's two oldest sons died. They did something which was inappropriate and they died. And Moses turned to the two surviving brothers and he said, more or less, you Kohanim will have to carry on the service. You'll have to be careful in future how you conduct yourselves. But these are the most important words. V'achechem kol Beit Yisrael yivku et hasreifa. Your brothers, the entire house of Israel, will cry for what has happened. The Israeli government and the relevant authorities will investigate, they'll draw conclusions for the future. But for us, it is wrong to speculate from the comfort of our homes, and it's also wrong to be angry. You know, the world is an angry place at the moment. You've got the pro-vaxxers and the anti-vaxxers. People are upset about the lockdowns. People are angry at those who are breaking the lockdowns, other restrictions. Lots of reasons to be angry. And over this, people have said that they are angry. Is anger going to help the victims and their families? Is anger going to heal the trauma felt by many tens of thousands? We are Beit Israel. You know, that verse describing the weeping of the people for Aaron's sons could have just said Israel, or Bnei Israel, the children of Israel. But it didn't. It said Beit Israel. Beit conveys a home, a house, a family. When a child of ours does something really foolish that causes damage, how do we react? With anger? I think most of us would react with sadness and with tears. You know, the One Family organization that was founded in Israel in 2001 during the Second Intifada to help the victims of terror and their families, they called themselves One Family to convey a message. We're one family. What brought it home on Friday for us was that one of those missing was a young man called Daniel Morris from New Jersey, a student at Yeshivat Shalavim, one of Shivas which is very similar to where our son Rafi is. He's the same stage as our son Rafi, and a classmate from school of Rafi's friends, Rafi's Yeshiva friends. A Friday morning was very tense because we heard that he was missing. Would he be found, alive or not? And as we were finishing lunch, Rafi sent us this bitter message that he, in fact, was not alive. And we cried. We cried for the loss of a beautiful life with so much potential. We cried for his parents over there in the United States. We cried for his madrich, who was searching everywhere for this boy, and the staff of Yeshivat Shalavim that were combing the hospitals. We cried for them too. His funeral will be tonight, 9 o'clock at the Mount of Olives Cemetery in Jerusalem. I'm guessing that's late tonight, enough time to allow his parents to come from New Jersey. And busloads of young men from different yeshivot will go and support them. Our son Rafi will be there. This is not what we envisaged. And now go and multiply this by 45. All the different names have come out now, their backgrounds, Israeli, American, Argentinian, British, Canadian, all over the place, different ages, teenage brothers. Can't imagine. One father said he heard his young son, 11, call out Shema Israel. He said he's dying, and indeed he did. Our son Benny told us something that he learnt in the army. The rules of the army are written in blood, meaning that tragedies, loss of life, led to the creation of new rules. And I immediately thought of the Hillsborough tragedy in 1989, and there were no Haredim there. That tragedy forever changed the way we attend football matches at stadiums across the country, and I'm guessing health and safety in many other respects too. Written in the blood of the 96 victims of that terrible disaster. When tragedy strikes of this nature, whether it's in India, as often seems to occur, or the Hajj in Mecca, where sometimes there's overcrowding, at Hillsborough or at Meron, the question that we can all ask ourselves is, what can we learn from it? And how can we feel the pain of the victims? On a more positive note, there were many citizens in Israel, Arab, Jewish, Druze, secular, religious, who rose to the challenge of chesed. The local Arab villages provided hospitality, food. They brought out food. For them, they were fasting, but they brought out food. Whole chesed organizations got together to bring them food for Shabbos. There's an optician even in Ramat Gan that said, anyone who lost their glasses in the disaster, I'll make you new ones free of charge. People know how to do chesed when the situation arises. I also referred yesterday to prayer. Prayer is so important. And we were standing in shul yesterday just before Musaf. And I highlighted 3 things, and I want to highlight them again, because 2 of them apply to every single Amidah we say every day of the year. The first, which is in Kedusha of Musaf, we say the words, Min kol mohu yifem berachamim v'yachon am. May he turn to us from his place in mercy and be gracious to the people who say the Shema every day. This is what we ask from God now. We say the bracha hamachazi shechinato leTzion. We ask for God, return your presence to Zion. There should be no more disasters. And we ask for sim shalom, tova v'racha, grant peace, goodness, blessing, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, graciousness, kindness, mercy to your people. And we conclude that blessing, Hamorechet Hamo Yisrael b'shalom. God, may you bless your people with peace, not anger, not fighting, not bickering, but now rising to the challenge of praying for the souls of those who've died, for the families who are mourning, for those who are injured, whether physically or, as there will be many more, psychologically. We closed yesterday with Achenu called Beit Israel. Here you have the word again, Beit Israel. our brothers, the entire house of Israel. This beautiful prayer is on page 128 in the Green Siddur. Said, our brothers, the whole house of Israel, who in distress or captivity, on sea or land, may the present have compassion on them and lead them from distress to relief, from darkness to light, from oppression to freedom, now, swiftly and soon. And let us say Amen. May Hashem heal the broken hearts at this time. Tonight, the United Synagogue will be running a prayer event for the victims of Meron. The chief rabbi will speak. The Israeli ambassador will speak. There'll be other speakers. This is a time to join together. There is one other aspect which we've really touched on already, and that is, what do we learn? What can we learn from what has happened? One person who looked around the world and took messages and inspired us for many decades was Rabbi Sachs Zatzal. On Tuesday evening, Rabbi Johnny Solomon, who spent Shavuot with us a couple of times, who's himself an inspirational speaker, will speak about the Six-Day War and how that changed the life of Rabbi Sachs. If Rabbi Sachs hadn't been looking out for that, for the messages from that, bringing to his own life, he would never become Rabbi Sachs. We wouldn't have heard of him. Join us tonight and on Tuesday night. And please remember, we can cry at this time, but we can also draw hope that our people will unite around this sorrow. Please God, lessons will be learned by those who are best placed to find out exactly what happened and to implement the changes necessary. And for the rest of us, it is to focus on prayer, on gemilut chesed, on good deeds, and doing our little bit to take care of those around us. Shalom uvracha, wishing peace and blessing to everyone.